Welcome to Confessions with Nikki G. I'm your host, Nikki G, of course. I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy day to listen or watch me as I discuss today's topic. First things first, I always start my shows off with this scripture. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That is the purpose of internal evolutions. I want to be able to get you to rethink a lot of things that may be going on with you internally, your emotions. It's my goal to help you grow and prosper with your emotional health. Now, to translate that is do not be like the rest of the world. Learn new things that will help you become a better version of yourself, because we should strive daily to be a better version of ourselves. There's always room for growth. This is February, and February, from society terms, is considered a month of love. You know, you celebrate Valentine's Day. You have people out here wearing red. It's a celebration of love. But from my perspective, we should love each and every day, all year, not just 1 month. And I also always state that if it take 1 day out of the year for you to show love to me, then I don't think you really love me. I just think you're just going along with whatever society has, because love should be shown daily. As people of God, we should show love, the love of God to people, and hopefully the same love in return we'll get back. We'll get that same love back. I want to talk about self-love, about loving yourself. I can recall several times people would ask me, you know, did I love myself? Do you love yourself? And I'm like, yeah, I love myself. I'm thinking to myself, you're crazy. I know I love myself. You know, I wear my nice clothes. I keep my hair done. Yeah, I love myself. I take good care of myself. However, my life didn't reflect that. Let me repeat that. People used to ask me all the time, Nikki, do you love yourself? And I would say, yeah, I love myself. But my life was not a reflection of that. So today, I want you to stop and think about, if you're saying you love yourself, does your life reflect that? Does it show in your everyday life? For me, with my story, when I was saying I love myself, but at the same time, I was getting abused from family, friends, and my spouse. And more importantly, I was abusing myself. And that is called self-neglect. I was neglecting myself. I wasn't concerned about my well-being because I was steadily being abused from family, friends, and my spouse. So with that being said, I was failing to meet my own needs. But yet again, when people would ask me, Nikki, do you love yourself? I would say yes. But how could I be loving myself when I'm neglecting my own needs? And I'm letting these particular individuals abuse me as well. But I'm saying that I love myself. Now that I think about it and I'm saying it out loud, I hope that it clicks to you if you're that person that I used to be. You're out here saying you love yourself, but you're abusing your own self. You're neglecting your own needs, but you're saying you love yourself. It's more to loving yourself than having a cosmetic look. That is keeping your hair done, you know, getting your nails done. It's more to it than that. You have to worry about your mental and emotional well-being as well. You have to look at the fact of how people treat you and how you let people treat you. How you let people treat you, period. So with that being said, I decided to talk about my journey to self-love. Because once again, as I was going through life saying that I love myself, I truly wasn't. So I'll say for years, I neglected myself, which once again, I would say that's called self-neglect, when you're just abusing yourself. Like I say, emotionally, physically, and once again, neglect. Emotionally, because none of my needs were being met. Emotionally, because I was being abused from my family, friends, and spouse. You know, and that abuse came in the form of also physical, emotional, and financial. It may not have been from each group of people, but one or two of those things happened in those relationships where I was letting those things happen to me, because I felt like by me showing them the love of God that, you know, it's okay. That's another thing I had to learn, that forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's for you. So as these people are doing things to me, I'm making excuses, because that's what they were, excuses. I'm steady neglecting myself in the process. And during this whole process, were underlying problems that I'm dealing with now. The first one I'll talk about is physically. I became an emotional eater. Why do people become emotional eaters? Because their emotions are not healthy. We weren't taught how to deal with emotions properly. In most cases, like myself, most emotional eaters are people pleasers. But once again, you're really neglecting yourself, because once you become an emotional eater and you don't get those eating patterns under control, you're going to become overweight. That overweight is just a vicious cycle of other health problems. It's abuse. Financially, people will use you financially if they feel like they can. And before you know it, you can put yourself in a bind trying to help somebody else or trying to show love to somebody that probably don't love you. And in the same token, you ain't loving yourself either, because once again, you will neglect yourself to go and do something for somebody else. That's not how that's supposed to work. Once again, all that self-love, all that stuff come into play. I just want to give you something to think about, because that's self-neglect. It's a lot of us out there that's doing that right now. So I'm hoping with this podcast that you will rethink the saying is, yes, I love myself. You'll know the clear definition of loving yourself. And also during this podcast, I want to tell you about my journey, like I said, to self-love. And this was the first thing. I had to recognize, I had to do a self-reflection of myself, my relationships with family, friends, and my spouse. I had to look at all those things and figure out what was the underlying problem. That is the first step. Now, I'm giving you a condensed version, but this took years for me to get to this point. So everybody's journey time frame is different, but I'm hoping this will give you a little push for yours to move sooner if you're that person. Now, for me, it wasn't until I went through a divorce that I had to, once again, self-reflect. I had to break myself down to build myself up brick by brick. And I'm saying that to say I had to self-reflect, figure out what was the problem. Why was I continuously getting treated a certain way? And if I'm saying I love myself, then why don't I feel loved? The two didn't match. So I had to figure out what was the problem. So it was just something about that divorce that I finally just broke down. Because before, when I would end relationships, I would get into another relationship, and once again I'm saying, yeah, I love myself, but how could I love myself? I didn't love myself before then, but now I jumped into another relationship. And for me, during this process of self-reflection, I would sit there and I would think about things. I would say, well, when you're not healed, the first thing you want to do is, when you say you love yourself, but you go through something traumatic or someone does something to you, the first thing you want to do is beat yourself up. Oh, maybe I'm too fat, or maybe I'm too skinny, or maybe I'm this, or maybe I'm that, maybe I'm not smart enough. But in reality, if you are to do that, then that's another red flag that you're not loving yourself. Because when you love yourself, you love your authentic self, whoever you are or whatever you are. That's what you love, because you're loving yourself. So you ask yourself once again, if you're doing those things to yourself right now, do you really love yourself? Another thing that spiraled my self-love to zero was I always felt like I couldn't fail in relationships. That's with my friends, that's with family, and that's with my spouse. I feel like I couldn't fail. Like if they needed me, I needed to be there. Whether they had just done anything to belittle or, abuse me in some shape, form, or fashion, I'm still going to be there. And that's unhealthy. That's unhealthy. Why would you steady neglect yourself to help someone accomplish their needs, but you neglecting yourself? Then once again, I'll say it again. I'm going to repeat it, and then you want to say that you love yourself. But do you truly love yourself? It had gotten to the point was so bad for me that I thought about suicide. I'm like, well, maybe I just don't mean, I'm not a help to anybody. Then I thought about my children, and I said, you know what? No, I got to be here for my kids, but I need to get myself together. In the process, I need to get myself together. I can't let my kids see me this way. They had already witnessed years of me being abused, so now it's time for me to clean up my life, because I had eyes on me at this point, and I couldn't let them down. Once again, I don't want to be a failure. Now, side note, it's okay if you fail at something. That just means if it didn't work the way that you wanted it to do, you go back and you try another way and you keep trying till you figure it out. So, but for me, failure was no option. I kept on and kept on. But in relationships, you can't keep doing that with somebody that's abusing you. It doesn't work. And I was that person that kept trying things over and over and over and over. This didn't work. Well, making excuses for people. Well, maybe she didn't mean that. Or maybe she didn't do this. Or maybe this person didn't do this. Just making excuses. That's all they were, excuses. Because as I'm making an excuse for that person, I'm steadily neglecting myself. And it was also with that divorce that I went through so many different emotions. It was like a whirlwind. And I would tell anybody, when you're going through a change and you get ready to start your internal evolutions, you have to have that quiet time. And it's that quiet time that's not really quiet, because your brain, your mind is just steady going back to different situations, different people, just all over the place. But you need that in order to break yourself down so you can build yourself up again. You need that. That's that self-reflection. So I'm just preparing you for that part of it. That I had all these things I did on my own, and it was just me and God. Well, God and I. And I'm glad to say that now you can see what it's like to get to the other side. But getting to this side is not an easy process, but it's not impossible. Now, going back to saying that you love yourself. So the first thing I did was self-reflection. And that's included in that self-reflection was those many emotions. That's what I mean by I had to tear myself down to build myself back up brick by brick. I had to deal with each of those emotions head on. And during the process, I know other people out there that probably were like me. And I felt like, or during the time I felt like I would see people and they appear to be happy. You know, they happy. They look like their lives together. I'm going to emulate what they're doing because I want that same happiness. But what people and myself failed to realize is that's their happiness. That's their journey. So don't go out here and copycat what you think is happiness or what you think. It might not work for you. That's not up for you. God got individual plans for all of us. And just because you see that on somebody else doesn't mean that that is your plan. That's what's going to work for you. Now, I'm telling you these details because that worked for me, but maybe you can take something of it and build it and keep growing and pray about it and let God guide you in your journey. But these are the steps that I had to take to get to self-love. So, once again, I watched other people and I tried it their way. Didn't work. So, once again, I'm an emotional eater. I'm depressed. I'm sad. I'm not happy. These people are steady treating me in a way that's demeaning. I'm letting it go on. And here comes that one family member. Nikki, do you love yourself? Yeah, I love myself. No. Then, once again, like I said, I watch people. I try to emulate their happiness. Then you got these group of people you will go to and you might tell them your emotions or what's going on with you in your life. You might be, sad or depressed. Instead of them trying to give you some real information, you're running to these people that will tell you, oh, come on, we're going to go to the club or we're going to go hang out. Don't you get you a drink? Well, you know what? That's going to open up a whole nother can of worms for you because then you start going out, hanging out, drinking, which I did. I started going out, drinking, in the streets. But I still had the same problem. But once again, through all of that, I was steadily saying, yeah, I love myself. But I was in an internal struggle as well. So you're going to go through that. So this is what I'm describing to you is the tearing down and the building up brick by brick. These are my experiences. Now, once years passed and I got tired of getting abused, I got tired of being neglected and also neglecting myself, I just had a made up mind. I said, you know what? I want to find out what this self-love really is and how can I truly get it. And now I can't get it from watching other people. I can't get it from, going out to the club. I can't get it from other people. It has to come from within. The next thing I had to do, once I figured out that love has to come from within, that I couldn't get it from the outside, I had to figure out what's the true definition of love. Oh, wait a minute, back up. When I decided that I couldn't get love from the outside, that it had to start with me within, I often use the serenity prayer. And let me read that to you. This serenity prayer got me through a whole lot of different situations. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So let me back up. As I'm watching people trying to grab their happiness, it didn't work. As I'm going out to the club, as young people say now, in the streets, drinking, hanging out, trying to find that love, that outside and inner love, couldn't get it. So that's why this serenity prayer is so important. Because you have to accept the fact that you can't change people. You can't change certain situations. But you have to be willing to accept that. That acceptance is important. For me, I wasn't willing to accept that my spouse wasn't going to change. I'm telling him that he's hurting me. Of course he's going to change. If I keep living right and treating him right, he's going to change. No, he's not. Or for that spouse that's out here, maybe you have a alcoholic spouse or family member or addicted to drugs or whatever that thing is, you can't change them. The only thing you can change is yourself. That's it. But this prayer helped me realize that. And it also says, give me the courage to change the things I can. The only thing you can change is you. You cannot change. You can't make a grown person do nothing. You can't make a grown person do anything. But it takes courage to stand up and want to change yourself. Because that's not an easy process. When you've been doing you for 20 years and then all of a sudden you say, you know what, I want to do something different. You have to have the courage to do it because it's not easy. And some people, they get comfortable in those situations. I did. I was comfortable in those situations. At one point, it didn't bother me if that person did something to me. Well, they didn't mean it. I was comfortable. I was being dependent on that person for my happiness, and that's a no-no. No. You can't do that and say that you love yourself. And the next thing that is important in this prayer is the wisdom to know the difference. Now, once I internalized that prayer, that helped me in a lot of situations. Because when I found myself being around toxic, abusive situations, I would stop, recite that prayer, and then handle the situation. I did that for years. I used to keep that prayer in my phone as my screensaver. It was in my bathroom. It was in my bedroom. It was all everywhere that I would look. I would see that prayer. Because when you get ready to go through a change, you're going to have to rely on God to help you. That's where you're going to get your strength and your courage from. Now, moving forward, I needed to find out what the definition of love is. What is love? What does that mean? Then I had to figure out once again, how am I going to get it within? So the next thing I did was I took the focus off of them and him or her. Because once again, what does that serenity prayer say? It says that you can change the things that you cannot change. You have to accept the things that you can't change. So I had to take the focus off of that situation, or like I said, them, him, or her. I had to take my focus off of that and revert it back to me. The next thing I needed to do was, like I said, once you get the definition of love, then I had to, once I read the definition of love, I was thinking to myself, how am I loving myself when I'm doing everything opposite of what the definition of love? Now, for me, I chose the definition. Everybody has a different definition of what they consider love. But when you're looking for self-love, I had to go to the word. I had to go to the truth. That is the definition that I use. And I'm hoping that if you're that person that's ready to change, and I'm hoping that you will do the same. And that is 1 Corinthians 13, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 13. Let me read it to you. This is what I use for definition of love. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what does that have to do with self-love? For me, in the journey that I took, if you can't do everything that's in this prayer for yourself, then you're not loving yourself. Let me break it down for you the way that I did. Now, I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm just going to give you the way that I use this prayer to help me in my self-love journey. Love is patient. Love is kind. You have to start being patient with yourself. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail at things. But you got to have patience with yourself. You have to be kind to yourself. We can be our own worst enemies. But we can go out there and be kind to other people that has really been abusive to us, but we can be kind to other people, but we can't be kind to ourselves. So how are we loving ourselves? It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. You don't envy other people like I was out here trying to grasp their love. I have my own love. It's not rude. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. In my journey of self-love, once again, it's not self-seeking. I was out here trying to seek it from other people when it comes from within. It's not easily angered. I want to get mad because I want the same love that they had. But where is it at? Why can't I get it? I wasn't loving myself. And also within that verse, I learned the art of forgiveness. Keeps no record of wrongs. I've learned how to forgive. Once I forgive you, I'm not saying that I forgot about it, but I'm going to forgive you, and I know the nature of our relationship going forward. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. So you can't go around saying that you love yourself, but you're not showing the love of God to other people. You're not even showing it to yourself. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes. If you love yourself, or if you're loving yourself, of course you're going to protect your heart. You're going to learn to trust yourself. Because when you're not loving yourself, you don't trust your decisions all the way. You're relying on other people to make decisions for you. You're not trusting of yourself. Always protects. At the stage I am now, I'm protecting my heart. I'm protecting my peace. Love always protect that. You know why? Because I'm loving myself. So therefore, those other things, they fall into place. And it never fails. Once I began to love myself, all the other stuff that was going on in my life slowly vanished. But the love never fails in any situation. So that is how I use that scripture in my journey to self-love. I had to learn to be patient with myself. I had to learn to be kind to myself. I had to learn that I need to learn to forgive myself for certain things that I had done and let other people do to me. And I also had to keep in mind that, once again, love never fails. So in this month of love, I hope that you are seeking self-love if you're not loving on yourself right now. Because if you're a Christian and you're saying that you're showing the love of God to other people, that's not possible if you're not loving on yourself. And if you haven't done the work or any of the steps or processes that I just told you, or you're that person that's neglecting yourself for the benefit of other people, you're not loving on yourself. You don't have self-love yet, but it's attainable. Now, I want to go through these steps one more time. You're going to ask yourself, what is the definition of love? Once you get the definition of love, you're going to start treating yourself accordingly. 1 Corinthians 13, you're going to start treating yourself first, accordingly. Patience, kindness. You're going to do everything in that scripture for yourself daily. Then you're going to take the focus off of that, of them, him, it, her, or whatever it is that's causing you internal injuries. You're going to take the focus off of them and put it back on yourself. Once you do those things and you do it daily, there's no time frame. Over time, love is patient, so be patient with yourself. Over time, you're going to get internal evolution. Your whole world is going to change. The people around you are going to change. First things first, the people around you are going to change because you will develop boundaries. Because remember, love protects. So you're going to love yourself. You're going to be protecting of yourself. You're not going to put yourself in a situation where you're going to harm yourself or let yourself be harmed anymore. That's a wonderful thing. Everything in your life is going to change. So now, if you take those steps that I just gave you and incorporate them daily, over time, let me know. Let me know what's worked for you. Let me know what happens in your journey. I would like to know. Just as I said and told you about my journey, I want to know about your journey. Tell me if this information helped you at all. Even if it just made you rethink and look over your life and your relationships. Because let me tell you something. I was that person out here getting used, baby. Oh, call Nikki. She'll do it. I'm over here tired of shit, working 3 jobs, trying to pay this, pay that. Call Nikki. She'll do it. Oh, let's go out, Nikki. Let's go out. I'm paying for everything, drinking, masking out here in the streets. Yeah, I lived my life like that for a long time. So when you're going through these things, like I say, it's over time. I started this journey, I'll say maybe in my 30s. I'm 50 now. So it's a journey. Your journey might be shorter. I'm hoping I can help you to shorten your journey because my journey was a long one. Everybody's journey is different, but your goal is to get to the other side. With that being said, you can find me on YouTube in any of the podcast arenas. That is Spotify, Google, Apple. Leave me a comment, like, share, subscribe. Maybe this information won't help you, but I'm pretty sure you know somebody that it will help. And hopefully you'll pass it on to them. Once again, I want to thank you for listening. And we will talk again next week.